This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Well, hello and welcome back to the Research Talks podcast here on Stockbox on what is possibly the last very lovely weather day, certainly in the Netherlands, I think, maybe also in the UK. Been an absolutely storming week, Alan. Not so much on the markets, but, let's enjoy the last of the weather. How are you doing?
Well, Mark, it's great to actually finally have some decent weather after what was a fairly lackluster and terrible August. It seems that September has arrived with a bang, and that long-awaited summer, or that long-lost summer we were looking for, has arrived. Weather's been fantastic. I think I said to you earlier, I went out on the bike for a ride yesterday evening and rode down the seafront in Seaford, and the beach was just chock full, and it was a mill pond sea, really, really hot still. I think it was about 22 degrees centigrade at about 6 in the evening. So just a lovely day.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Beautiful. I can't complain. I know we're supposed to be back at work, early September, the holidays are over, people go back to work. It seems to be starting to happen. I can feel my mindset switching away from summer vacation back into work mode. But while it's still a little bit quiet, definitely making the most of what is a beautiful weather. So today, let's catch up on Zenova, who we did speak about only maybe a couple of months or so ago, but of course they have had some recent developments there that look like it's really setting them going. And also you're going to bring us up to speed on some of the latest going on ECR Minerals as well, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. The field team have been in Queensland over the past few weeks, and they've been on the ground at in some pretty, we think it's hot over here, but they've been working temperatures 33 to 35 degrees centigrade in northern Queensland, scorching hot, exhausting weather, just basically digging up and examining sites where there are geological anomalies. So I'll bring everyone up to speed on that shortly, but there is certainly some encouraging progress to discuss there. But so I'll start off with Zenova Group, Mark. Of course, the EPIC code is ZED. The company IPO'd a year or so ago, and it's quite a binary investment in a sense, because the company is all about fire protection products, saving energy, saving money, saving time and property and assets through innovation. So the company has developed a range of fire safety and heat management solutions that have applications in housing, industrial and commercial sectors. Their current product range includes fire protection paints, insulation paints, insulation renders, fire extinguishing fluid and fire extinguishers, and various methods for their delivery. So we Zenova FP, which is the fire paint, Zenova FX, which is the fire extinguisher, Zenova IP, which is the thermal insulation paint, Zenova IR, which is the insulation render, and also Zenova WB, which is used as an additional measure to create an effective fire stop in wildfire areas. And of course, we're seeing so much of that at the moment. This is a product that's going to be applicable more and more. And the sectors the company covers are nebulous. So, I mean, oil and gas, aviation, marine, construction, automotive, government, and so many sectors. And of course, it's taken the company a time since its IPO to really get established and build its distribution network. And I think we're now seeing that start to move forward. Indeed, the company announced its interim results, and this is going back to August. It announced interim results to the end of May 2023. Reported sales of 108 million. The margin improved slightly to 52% from 49%. recorded a loss again, 709,000, down from a loss of just over 1 million for the previous period. So obviously the challenge Zenova faces is to build its sales and its sales network, its sales channels, and also its sales numbers. But once it gets to that point, it's going to become an absolute cash cow of a company, because you're a company that sells a multitude of small items, small ticket items in volume is down further down the road a very solid, safe business to be involved in. So we've got this revenue position to date. The company's also announced over the past 6 months a series of distribution agreements. Clastrum, its distributor in Spain and Germany, has announced a number of orders for the FX500 fire extinguisher. Its USA distributor Omnis has also announced a series of orders for the FX500 fire extinguisher, and most recently, at the end of August, it announced that it had entered a distribution agreement with Petra Industries in the US, also a distributor of paints. So it's given, at a stroke, Omnis and Zenova much greater market penetration in the US. And of course, I think the next sales update or the next trading update will reveal just how effective that's been in generating sales and, of course, revenues. Then, of course, I remember last time we discussed ZenSafe, and of course, ZenSafe is the Amazon distributor, and already the company's seeing a multitude of sales of the FX500 fire extinguisher on Amazon. So that could prove, I believe, a very healthy sales outlook for the company. And then in the UK, of course, we've got Rawless Paints it's signed up as a distributor. It's signed up Viridis Group as a distributor in Poland. But I think the most recent announcement is really a milestone for the company, and that, of course, is it has announced that Dulux has been appointed as a distributor for Zenova in the UK. And of course, we've got Dulux decorated centres up and down the UK, the eponymous big shaggy dog in the TV ads, very well known. It's an iconic brand, and I think for Zenova to enter a sales agreement with Dulux is really a sign of just how far the company's gone. It's a global household name, and it's an important milestone in the Zenova growth story, as Chief Executive Thomas Melchior said when the announcement was made. So Dulux Decorated Centre has 230 stores and specialist teams operating across the UK, so that will give a significant boost. And we're also seeing other little orders coming too. There was an order from Greece recently from a company that produces coffee, and of course, all of the fires that have taken place throughout Greece, and now, of course, they're faced with all the floods. So an order from a Greek coffee producer for IP paint for its solar panel roofs. And solar panel roofs do in themselves present a greater fire risk because, of course, of the actual network of cables and the actual panels themselves. So it's an important consideration. But certainly Zenova has evolved as a company. The team has developed over the past 6 months. Don Nicholson still remains as non-executive chairman, and of course Tony Crawley, who was very much key at the IPO of the company. He's still remains an advisor on the board, but Thomas Melchior has now stepped up as CEO to help drive the growth of the business. And also you've got non-executives, Dr. Etra Albani and Alan Gottesman as well, both there with the board, and Fiona Rodford, who's executive vice chairperson, working with the company to help develop the sales network. So for Zenova, it's very much, I said at the start, it's very much a binary sales proposition. You've got a team that are developing relationships with distributors, and now you can sign up these small distributors. That's great, it's good progress, but to sign up a distributor like Dulux is obviously great because you'll be able to access that network straight away, which the company now has. But on the back of that, you can go and talk to other distributors. And of course, once other distributors see that Dulux are distributing your products, it makes the sales process that much easier. So I would expect to see over the next 6 months an acceleration in sales of Zenova products, and of course we've got the other products we've discussed, ZenSafe on Amazon as well. So I think we're going to see a real increase in the volume of sales, and of course the actual revenues that will be generated from that too. In terms of funding and in terms of the share price, of course, since the IPO, I think that took place at 18p. The shares have come way back. The company now has a market capitalization of just under 6 million, trading at 5.6p. The shares rose, of course, on the Zenova news, but we're in a sense very much just off the year lows. So I think at this level, the company does offer good value to investors. It's got an awful long way to go, but I think with the sales team in place, the company's got a very good chance of building the network both here in Europe and in the US, and returning to those IPO highs that we saw a year or so ago. So in summary, a binary sales proposition, but I think the company is potentially approaching that inflection point now. Having signed up Dulux, I think that's going to be an inflection point that will open up further greater sales networks, probably get the company associated with other big household distribution names, and of course we'll see the sales increase on the back of that. So I think a speculative buy at this stage, but certainly once those other big names come on board, then I think it's going to be something that's a stock that will be worth holding for the longer term. Equally, just to say right at the end, the faster this company grows, it could very much become a target for one of the bigger players in the fire protection and fire retardant industry.
I would tend to agree, Alan, that there perhaps is an inflection point, just looking at some of the recent developments there, of course, with the CEO, Thomas, there being recently appointed. The other chap, Mike, the head of IR, who was interviewed on Stopbox just this week, he's new to the role. He was a shareholder in Zenova before. He said he likes old economy, manufacturing. And I think, like you say, what they've got is a quite unique proposition there. Of course, it's all about fire protection and fire suppression. I think we'll see more developments on the extinguisher side of it, but just taking the recent news this week on the paint, of course, as you say, that partnership with Dulux there, that's a big endorsement. If that's the only thing it is, set aside the sales, which of course is what drives companies like Zenova, product-based companies, as a huge endorsement that it's a product that I think Dulux said words to the effect that it adds something that in their product line that they don't have. And I think a great case study as well, which I think there's potentially quite a lot more of these could come from Zenova, is what happened in Greece there with that coffee company. Retrofitting the solar panels, that brings its own fire threats as well. But they utilised both the IP paint, the insulation paint initially, and then the fire protection paint. And that enabled them to get the insurance premium quite a lot lower. Because it reduces fire risk. So again, an endorsement, but a real example. And I think the story of Zenova will be built from real-time examples and applications of the products that they have. And with the extinguisher as well, being able to put out lithium fires, when we start to see that in practice, then that's the story building there. And then it comes down to sales. But from what I'm seeing at the moment, with the kind of the new people who are in place, these things that are getting announced, I would say it's at the point now where it's just, it's waving quite a big flag, but, it's maybe quite far away for people to see at the moment. But it's a pretty big flag, I think they're waving. And they just have to keep waving that, and people will start to notice it. So, yeah, I would tend to agree it's starting to see an inflection point, not without risk like anything, but I think it's definitely one to look into more. And if you're a speculative investor, it's a good time to get in, possibly.
I think it is. Yeah, yeah. It is. It's very much about, as you say, that flag waving. But it takes time to build a
Yeah.
distribution network. Yeah, and I think you could possibly look at the company and say, well, maybe an IPO too early. Maybe the sales network should have been developed. But in a sense, on the flip side, you can say, well, actually, the company is now listed, and it's the share price probably represents fair value for where it is. What's the sales opportunity? Well, we're in a changing world. We're in a world where we have global warming, and the impact of global warming is there for all to see. We're seeing these wildfires now.
Mm.
So Zenova has a range of products to help protect property and assets from destruction by fire, and certainly, if nothing else, give people the necessary time that they need to get out of a building or a premises because of the fire retardant properties that the company has. And as you rightly pointed out there, Mark, with the Greek coffee company using the Zenova products reduce their insurance premiums. So that's another factor to take into account. And of course, it's now down to the sales team to build that distribution network. But I think with Dulux now on board, that's given them a big leapfrog forward. And I think from that, they're going to other doors are going to open up, and the sales I would expect to see start to grow exponentially from this point onwards. So it's but I do also think as well a company with a range of products like this is a prime target for one of the bigger companies in fire security and in the industry generally. A company with a range of products might well look at Zenova and say, well, this is a great range of products. Let's add them to our arsenal. And if you're talking about a multi-billion-pound company looking at a £5 million company, then it's a no-brainer.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, well, thank you, Alan. Let's talk now about ECR Minerals.
ECR Minerals. Okay, so Mark, we've spoken many times about ECR. Of course, ECR is headed up by Chief Executive Andrew Haythorpe, and Andrew has a very strong reputation in the industry, both as a geologist and as an analyst, and also as CEO of mining resource and mining and exploration companies. And Andrew has worked as an analyst previously for an Australian bank. He also then started his own company, Crescent Mining. He joined Crescent Mining. He didn't start Crescent Mining. Joined it when it was an £8 million explorer, and he guided the company through to become a $250 million gold producer. So he's seen that process, and he joined ECR after the sad death, of course, a few years back of Craig Brown, the former chief executive. He joined ECR after having looked at the range of assets owned by the company, and has said in several interviews since that ECR has amongst the best range of assets and assets with the potential to develop further that he's seen in his time in the business. So that's a very encouraging endorsement indeed of that. But of course, we're in extraordinarily difficult times for gold explorers, mining exploration companies in general, and in a sense, there has been a disconnect for the share or by the share prices of these companies to the cost of the underlying commodities. And it's Andrew was involved in an interview published yesterday with Andrew Scott, who as well as working for Proactive and other companies, is also a non-exec director on the board. And he said that currently there's a massive disconnect between valuations and markets. Historically, equities in the sector have traded at greater than spot gold prices, and of course, we're now seeing a buoyant gold price. But the prices that the explorers are trading at is at a huge discount to that. And he just reminded or mentioned the cyclical movements of the commodities and the prices of the explorers over the years. We saw a dip in the 1980s, in the late 1990s, after which some of these companies came back from trading at 1 cent or 2 cents a share to $2, $5, $10 a share. So he believes that we'll see a cyclical readjustment again. He said in the meantime there are opportunities literally to pick up millions of shares at knockdown prices. Get as much gold into your portfolio as you can with these junior explorers, taking a 2 to 5 year view. So I think that's coming from somebody who has worked as an analyst and also who has developed a gold business from an $8 million company into a 250 million gold producer. So that's enough on the board. I mentioned Andrew Scott. Of course, Andrew Scott's non-executive director. Adam Jones is the technical director, and he's also very much the public face of the company going forward. And I'm going to talk through some of the work that Adam's done shortly. David Tang, of course, the long-standing chairman of the company, and then of course we have Trevor Davenport, who formerly worked with Craig Brown at Chrysler Resources many years ago. So the principal focus for ECR currently is on its tenements in Queensland, and it has 3 properties in Queensland. It has the Lulworth project, and this is a series of licenses near to the Charters Towers mine. Also in that area, the Pajingo mine and the Mount Nation gold mine. So it's a very fertile area for gold exploration and, of course, historical gold production. That Queensland over the years has yielded many thousands of tons of ounces of gold. Right to the north, the company also entered an option to buy into or to acquire the Hurricane project, and the team are currently on the ground there, or they were on the ground last week, examining the geology in the area. And certainly what Adam Jones and the team were finding were some areas of huge potential. Certainly with rock chip results from Lulworth, they were finding in areas such as Reedy Creek, for example, 22 grams per ton of gold discovered in Reedy Creek. In Oakey Creek, they discovered up to 96.7 parts per million of niobium. And of course, niobium is going to be a very important energy metal going forward. They're talking about developing now niobium batteries. So this is going to be key to fueling the energy industry going forward. And as the team have gone through Lulworth, they have discovered many examples of both niobium and tantalum, and of course gold sampling in the creeks in the area. So of course they've gone across Lulworth and looked at historical creeks, and the team are currently working their way through those now. And indeed, a video was published earlier today by ECR showing Adam Jones working at Gorge Creek, where they discovered a bedrock system, and of course the bedrock is underneath the stream. And Adam was sifting through the sediment, and at the bottom of the sediment, in the little crevices in the bedrock, they're finding little particles of gold and slivers of gold that, of course, comes through the panning process. So again, it's establishing, of course, where the best areas are, where to drill, and that process is currently taking place in Lulworth, and along with a bunch of results that are due to come back from the lab. The team will zero in on gold targets across Lulworth within the next few months. The same also applies to the Hurricane project. After acquiring the option last year, a LIDAR survey was undertaken. So this is a laser survey of the ground that cuts through all of the undergrowth and everything else, and gives a very clear picture of the underlying geological anomalies. And a number of prospects were discovered: the cyclone prospect, the Holmes prospect, the tornado prospect. And the team spent just over a week on the ground there, collected 249 rock samples, which are currently with the lab, in order that they can make this, the company can make this decision whether or not to progress and buy the option on the license. So they've, if you go through the company Twitter feed, you'll see over the past 2 weeks, the company's noted numerous outcrops. One outcrop noted at the cyclone prospect at Tornado, adjacent to Tornado, an outcrop some 750 meters in length, 20 meters at the widest point, 70 rock chip samples collected from that. And within these samples, they're finding chunks of stibnite, that's antimony sulfide, and of course these are gold pathfinders. And the team are assimilating this data and of course exploring the veins, and then looking at the areas of greatest potential, which will be determined, of course, by the samples that come back from the rock chips. The team also discovered mineralization in rock samples showing spherulite and chalcopyrite, which also are good pathfinders for gold too. So this process has been ongoing, as I say, over the past few weeks. And in an interview yesterday, as well as Andrew Haythorpe's read on the market, Adam Jones also discussed the progress to date, and then of course what they intend to do with Lulworth. Also in Queensland, the company have the Blue Mountain project, and this is a project the company has an option to buy into. The team will be on the ground there at some point to examine the Blue Mountain prospect. It's on the face of it, it appears to be similar to Lulworth, where we have these drainage systems with bedrock and potential samples within or lying on the sediment just above the bedrock. So the team are going to go in and conduct some work to examine these, and again try to locate some gold targets. But again, across all these areas, a lot of historical work and gold mines adjacent to the prospect areas. Should also say as well that, of course, prior to the work the team have been undertaking in Queensland, the team have a very comprehensive set of assets down in Victoria. This, of course, is predominantly the Creswick prospect, and Creswick is north of Ballarat, the town of Ballarat, which of course has the famous Ballarat gold mine, and further to the southeast, the East Baringa goldfields, and the team have license areas covering this. They've been undertaking a lot of work throughout the year and have discovered numerous historical gold workings, and will be assimilating that data to return at some point, probably early in 2023. Also in Victoria, the team have the Belliston assets, and the Belliston asset, of course, the company undertook drilling works at Blue Moon early this year. The results from that were disappointing. It didn't quite get what they'd hoped, but there's still an awful lot of mineralization there to be explored, along with a new license area, which the team will also be working on next year. And in the east of Victoria, ECR has the Tambo license, and the team conducted a brief field visit there, took some quartz outcrops from the Tambo area, and best results: 2 meters at 22 grams per ton, half a meter at 5.7 grams per ton. So again, a lot of potential, potentially to come from Tambo as well. So at this stage, the company's at a pivotal juncture. In effect, we're waiting on the rock chip samples and further samples to come back from Lulworth. We've already had plenty of samples coming back from Lulworth over the course of the year, but the samples that are currently in the lab from Hurricane, we'll know about those shortly, and then of course the company can take that decision whether to take up the option on the license there, and then of course that will include setting up drill pads, identifying access points. It's quite a remote area, so access is not the easiest in the world. But once those are in place, then of course the company can bring its drill teams in. Should also say as well, of course, ECR has 2 drill rigs of its own. It has the Midas drill rig, which is being used in Victoria, and it recently acquired another drill rig from China that arrived in Melbourne early this year. The company also has several property assets too, which it's disposed of an asset in just north of Bendigo a while back. It's also disposed of an asset in Baillieston, and it has a third property asset at Creswick, which may or may not be disposed of at some point. But as that property is right in the middle of the prospecting area the team have been engaged in, they may well retain that, obviously, to give easy access to the area. The company also has an asset in the Philippines too. It owns the 90% of the Dangley Gold Project, where there's an inferred resource there of 63 million ounces of gold. Again, there may be a joint venture, there may be a disposal of that asset at some point. That remains to be seen. Going back to the share price, and just going back to the point that Andrew Haythorpe made in the interview right at the start. Of course, there's this massive disconnect from the underlying commodity, and certainly that's been the case with ECR. I mean, we're currently trading at what must be near record lows for the company. It's got a market capitalization of just under 3 million, trading at 0.25 of a penny. And you could literally pick up millions and millions of shares in this company. And if the team believe that Hurricane warrants buying into this option, if the team make a discovery at Lulworth, then of course that could change very rapidly and dramatically indeed. Equally, if there's a reset in junior explorer in the price of junior explorers, the company could just benefit from that outright anyway. But either way, I think at these levels, ECR is a bit of a slam dunk buy. Okay,
well, thank you, Alan. Where's the current activity really focused at the moment? Just remind me.
The current activity is focused, predominantly 2 areas in Queensland. So the team, if you go, I'd urge listeners to go to the ECR Minerals Twitter feed. Over the past 2 weeks, you'll see a raft of information that the company has been putting out on social media about the work on the ground at the Hurricane Project in Queensland. Adam Jones has been on the ground there and just talking through the process, what the team have been doing there, and also look at the announcements that the company has made over the past few months. Rock chip results from Lulworth, recording gold and niobium, quantities of niobium. So there are lots of anecdotal results, and from these results, of course, they can zero in on areas to take the drill rig in, do the drilling work, and hopefully discover the next multi-million ounce gold deposit.
Because those assets in Queensland, they were the ones that Andrew brought in, weren't they? That he was really quite bullish on.
Yeah, very much so. The Lulworth asset was something that Craig Brown identified with Adam Jones a couple of years ago, and they've been developing that. And indeed, Andrew has been pretty enthused by that. But Hurricane was something that Andrew Haythorpe was involved prior to joining ECR Minerals. And I think, reading between the lines there, I think the team are very excited by what they found there, and a lot of the samples that they pulled out of the ground, and also some of the pictures and the videos that have been recorded there tell their own story. So I think we're at a potential tipping point there. If they decide to go with this, then of course they'll be paying they'll be paying some $200,000 in shares to the current owners or the current vendors. But that could be small change given what the team potentially believe is there. Prior to that, a geologist walked the area and discovered these anomalies, and it was that prompted the previous owners to get involved with this asset. So I think now Adam and the team have been on the ground doing this field work, following the LiDAR or the LiDAR data that was provided through the overflight early this year. I think that's going to. They've now got all the information they need to make that decision.
Excellent. Well, let's see how that story develops, particularly over there in Queensland. But thank you very much, Alan, today for talking to us there about ECR Minerals and Zenova.
Thank you, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.